Is the Alesis Strata Prime electric kit worth it? That is what we'll be discussing in this video. We'll keep switching between the positives and the negatives to come to some sort of conclusion at the end of the video. Let's look at positive one. One of my favorite things about the kit is quite simply how good it looks. I do love the red and black color scheme, but more importantly, I love the fact that the drums are essentially without the acoustic depth. They are full-size drums. I'm assuming that most of you will have done your research with this kit and you've seen a bunch of reviews. I'll link mine in the description below. So of course, you'll probably already know what all the different sizing is for all of the cymbals and the drums. But the idea that you've got full-size cymbals, a huge kick drum, you've got tom-toms that are ascending 8, 10, 12, 14 inches. You've also got 14-inch snare. Everything feels acoustic, it looks acoustic, and the idea that the drums are actually different sizes really helps with my playing. When comparing the Strata Prime to some of the other kits in the similar price range, it's really nice to see that for a little bit cheaper, we do get this acoustic look, which is excellent for content creation. When I'm recording music videos, it's just so much better to have a full-size looking kit. Having said that, when comparing this with a TD27, for instance, it's cool to see that it is cheaper and is more acoustic looking and is better for making content. But the problem with that is it has cut some corners with the triggering. Before the Strata Prime came out, I was going to buy the Roland TD27K V2, which is very similar to this kit in terms of what it comes with and the expandability of both kits with the 2 extra cymbals and the extra auxiliary drum. Both of the kits come with the same amount of cymbals and drums, but the difference is the Alesis Strata Prime kit comes of course with the acoustic looking drums and the full-size kick drum, which to me was very, very important, as I mentioned, for making all of my videos. What we gained through the acoustic look of the Alesis Strata Prime, we sort of lose in its triggering capabilities and the internals of each of the drums when we compare that to the TD27. Let's first look at the snare drum. To do a cross stick sound with the Alesis snare, I can't have my hand or the stick resting on the face of the snare. It instead needs to be raised up on the rim, and then I can create my side stick sound. With the Roland kit, I need to actively put my hand on the face of the snare. The snare will then recognize this and create a side stick sound instead. So the snare is far superior on the Roland TD27 compared to the Strata Prime. And I also believe the sensitivity is a little bit better on the Roland as well. Speaking of sensitivity, apparently the hi-hat on the Roland kit is better. I don't really know. I'm quite happy with this one. I think it works completely fine, but that's just something to note as well. One more thing to note in the favor of the Strata Prime is the 360 zone cymbals. I can hit them wherever I want and also choke them wherever I want, and they will still activate, which you don't get with the TD27. Let's quickly discuss the biggest problem that I have with this kit, which is to do with its missed triggers. It seems as though every single time that I'm recording drums or playing along to music, there are multiple instances where I get missed triggers with the kick drum and the snare drum. Now, all I mean by a missed trigger is a high velocity hit, such as this, which should provide a high velocity sound, instead gives me a low velocity sound. So high velocity hit should equal high velocity sound, but instead I get high velocity hit, low velocity sound. Same thing with the kick drum. I want a big, strong, powerful, high velocity sound from the high velocity hit, but instead I get a little, tiny little noise like that, which is extremely frustrating and throws me off when I'm playing. It's not the end of the world, but it is exceptionally frustrating, especially when I'm sitting here trying to record a drum track to one of my songs, and I'm halfway through the recording and I'm thinking to myself, this is the best take I've done all day, and then bang, missed trigger. Throws me off, and then that's it, it's all over. So with all that being said, I think that the acoustic look and just the look of this kit in general is far superior to the Roland kit, but the Roland kit might have better triggering. That's not to say that the Strata Prime doesn't have good triggers, because they are genuinely really good. The pads are really sensitive and everything I think works really, really, really well. I just think that the Roland has the extra edge when it comes to functionality. With all that being said, let's move away from how the kit looks and feels, and instead look at how it sounds and how intuitive the module is. The module is very easy to use. It's, as I said, quite intuitive, and what makes it even better, even simpler, is the gigantic touchscreen. This is our homepage. On the right, we have got Browse, Edit, Mix, Jam, Trigger, and then Settings. Under Settings, you can connect your phone through the Bluetooth or update the module over Wi-Fi, a bunch of stuff like that. But let's have a look at Browse first. We can use the Browse page to sort through and select any of the kits that we may want to use that have been saved onto the module, which will either A, be your factory kits that came included with the module, B, it could be the BFD kits that you download onto the module. I have a video for how to do that, which I'll link in the description below, or C, it is any of the kits that you build yourself. Under Browse, we have got Edit, where we can make any edits to any of the drum sounds. So if I wanted to turn my crash into a China, I can do that there. and we can also change sort of tom-toms that we're using, any stuff like that, to essentially build your own kits or your own versions of the factory kits. To record an acoustic kit, you would of course be doing so through the use of microphones. And this mixers tab here kind of allows you to control the use of these microphones. What makes this even better is that we can make any adjustments to the level of any of the drums. So if my hi-hat is too quiet and my kick is too loud, I can drop the level of my kick and increase the volume of my hi-hat and get everything sounding good, so I can record just straight into my DAW. On top of that, you can add effects to your kits here. On a couple of the factory kits, we have delays, we have phases, a bunch of different stuff, but you can have compressors and different sorts of effects all over the kit, all under this mixers tab. Going back to our homepage, we have got jam. So if you're playing along to any music, that's where it is. I think if you record stuff, that's where you'll see it as well, if you're not recording onto a DAW first. Finally, we have the trigger page, which is probably the most important one because we can make any adjustments that we need to for any of the individual triggers on any of the drums or cymbals. So if the sensitivity on my snare drum is too low, I can boost it here. If my threshold is too loud, I can drop it here. If I want to make a change to the bell trigger on my ride cymbal, that is where we can do so. In the top right corner of this page, we have got hi-hat setup, which will provide you with a two-step process to setting up your hi-hat with the magnetic control system. The hi-hat setup is usually pretty good, but if you need it to be a little bit more precise, we can go back to the home page, and then using the second dial from the right, you have got the hi-hat bottom control, which just controls the distance between the top and bottom hi-hat. If I boost that up, we raise the height of the bottom hi-hat and make the hi-hats tighter. If we drop it down, we of course make them looser and more sloshy. Personally, I cannot fault this module. I think it's pretty much perfect. I'm really happy with it, and I think it is arguably one of the better ones on the market. Now, at the back of the module, we have got power, then all of your inputs, where we have 3 additional inputs for expandability. One is an auxiliary input for a 5th tom-tom, and then you have crashes 3 and 4. On top of those, we have all of your outputs. I'm just using the 2 XLR cables, which is completely fine for me because I only have 2 inputs on my audio interface. Next to the XLR outputs, you've got 4 assignable outputs. Now, if you'd rather use them, go right ahead. For me, I can't because I don't have enough room on my audio interface, and I'm generally quite happy just using the XLR outputs. If I'm ever unhappy with the sound, I just adjust it with the mixing tab, and that works completely fine for me. Again, you can use that, or you can use the 4 assignable outputs. The only problem is, I think that the Strike Pro had 8 outputs, and this has only got 4, I think 6. I don't know if you can use them together, but you've definitely got 4 outputs with the assignable outputs. And for some people, that is just not enough. They'd rather have closer to the 8 that the Strike Pro comes with. So if that's a problem, probably the kit's not for you, but again, that mixing tab is very useful. The final thing that I'd like to discuss with this kit is just how absolutely amazing it sounds, especially considering we have the BFD software included into the module. Now, normally with a cheaper kit, you would have 1 sound per drum, and this sound would be turned up and then down depending on how hard you hit. So only 1 sound, and then that 1 sound would be either louder or quieter depending on if you hit hard versus soft. Now with the Strata Prime, what we get is different sounds depending on the different velocities that we use. So instead of just 1 hit turned higher and lower, we instead get a different sort of range between low velocity with little power and then high velocity hits with maximum power. So if I hit with a good amount of velocity, so a heavy hit, that's going to have a very different attack and feel to if I just go. You can hear the difference, especially if I was to go to one of the tom-toms. So quiet. You can really hear the difference in the attack and the sound depending on the velocity that I use. And same goes with the cymbals, which I think are really good. And then obviously the choking is really good as well. We also got all those features on the hi-hat, including a bell. The hi-hat itself is actually pretty incredible because you've got this. I can open it a little bit. Keep opening it. And then what's really cool is if I hit it lightly when it's in its open position, normally you just get a quiet version of an open hi-hat, but with the sloshiness and then smacking against each other. But with this, if you hit it lightly, the top cymbal, the top hi-hat, won't actually hit the bottom hi-hat. Like that. A little bit, you can kind of hear it smack when I'm playing just a little bit harder. So it's not touching. If I hit a little bit harder. While we're here, let's do a quick little demonstration of the sensitivity and everything of the kit. We've kind of done the cymbals, so I won't worry about that, but let's do the drums. So we've got the rim, like I said, which is also 360. We've also got a rim shot on all the drums. Which sounds incredibly accurate, and then you've just got your heavy hits. Then if we go different velocities on each drum. To wrap up this video, let's just do a quick little overview of the positives versus the negatives. We'll start with the negatives that we talked about in this video. So the big one is the triggering issues. If that didn't exist, I'd say this is pretty much, for me, a perfect kit, but it does exist and it's very frustrating. Also the fact that I can't do a side stick or a cross stick, that's kind of frustrating. I can get away with doing that. I will do what I must. It's just really the triggering issues that I have a problem with, and other people I've seen have got a problem with the lack of recording outputs. We only have 4 or the 2 XLR outputs, which works completely fine with me because again, I only have 2 inputs for my audio interface. So that's all I can do anyway, but that could be a problem. Now the module itself, positive. It's really good, simple to use, intuitive. It is a great looking module. The module also provides the kit with incredible sounds. It sounds amazing and also looks incredible. It's got an acoustic feel, it looks acoustic, and that is exceptionally important for me as a content creator. So if those trigger problems get fixed somehow with an update to the module or whatever, don't care. If they get fixed, perfect kit. If they don't, I'm gonna be waiting until they fix it. Overall, I think there's still some things that need to be worked out with the kit, especially the triggering issues. But otherwise, with everything that I've discussed in this video, I do believe that this kit is worth it, or at least for most people. If you have any questions, please let me know. Otherwise, thank you all so much for watching. I'll see you later.